Hi, good humans. I wanted to do a video today to tell you the 5 things that I do to get myself reset and to plan and organize my life so I can kind of have some structure to it. And I know that not everything can be planned. And this is like the basis that I keep in my head, which keeps me kind of sane through this process as well, is that I know that even though I can plan and plan and plan and plan, not everything will go my way and things are out of my control. And I accept that and I flow with it. But I like to make a list and a guide and a template of what I need to do or want to do so I can just clear out my head. And that's the biggest thing, because when things are stuck in my head, running all over the place, I feel flustered and I can't get clear thoughts of what I need to do or what I want to do, what I'm really thinking. So this really helps me kind of dissect that. So I hope that this helps you guys. I usually do this all the time, really, but I do some of the steps every day. Some of the steps I do more on like a quarterly basis or whenever I'm feeling kind of overwhelmed. But you know, especially as a single mom with a full-time job, it's been crazy. And so trying to live like a normal life while still trying to handle all these extra things have really taken a toll. And this is the only way I've kind of figured it out to work for me while actually being efficient. So the first thing that I do is a brain dump. So a brain dump, what it is I take out a blank sheet of paper and I do it similar to this kind of blank paper. And I just take a notepad, I take my favorite pen, which right now I only have this Papermate Ink Joy Gel 0.7. I used to like 0.3, but for some reason now I like 0.7. And I usually use that because it just helps me flow better. Whereas if I have like a pen that I don't like, it usually, for some reason, I get really stuck on it and I feel like I can't write properly because I keep focusing on the pen and how sucky it is. So that's what I do. I sit down, I do a brain dump, and I usually just write down everything on my mind. So whether it's like the 10 things that I felt like I needed to do, like go to the grocery store, pick up laundry, move, you know, something upstairs to downstairs, downstairs to upstairs, whatever it is, I just write it down. And it doesn't matter how small or big or goal or realistic, I don't care. I just put everything onto paper because I don't want to think about it anymore. So I just put it onto paper of everything I'm thinking about. And then on top of that, I kind of go through all the different categories that I have in life. So one would be definitely myself. Self-care is kind of one category I put in because if I don't, I forget about it. That includes all of my appointments that I need to do in a year. Like from dentist to massage appointments to facial appointments, all that stuff I put in there and I list just so I can remember to do it. I also include, like, let's say if I wanted to do something fun, like let's say I wanted to go and try go wine tasting somewhere, if I wanted to go on a brewery tour or something like that, I make that on my list, and that way I can make sure that I can find some friends to go with, and that way I make sure that I can have some fun in addition to all the stuff that I do where it's taking, you know, just managing life. The second thing is family and friends. So I make this section and I start with my son and I put down all the things that I need to do for him or all the things that I want to do for him. So the things that I need to do for him, I'll list those things down. And then let's say I bought a bike and I wanted to put it together, but I haven't put it together yet. That's in my head to do, so I put that down on a piece of paper. And then on top of that, let's say I wanted to enroll him in some summer classes. I haven't done that. It's still far off. I don't have anything to kind of figure out and look at right now, but I do want to do it. But it's in my head, so I remember when it comes to summer. So I write it down so that way I could get it out of my head and I have a list there so I can refer back to it when I need to. In terms of family, I'll write down family and I'll put down, like, let's say birthdays that I want to do and how I want to celebrate it. And I start planning it a little bit in advance so that way I can kind of get a head start, because I know that when it becomes closer, it gets crazy and I can't do it. So I like to kind of have an idea about it so I can start kind of thinking about it, and I'll put those things down. If I wanted to do, let's say, a family vacation, I'll put that on there too. And if I wanted to, let's say, do a family trip somewhere or a family dinner for a certain holiday, I'll put that on there so I can start planning for it. And then let's say throughout the year, if I go back to it and I see that it's something that's no longer feasible or I just don't want to do it anymore, I just cross it off and take it off. And then as I go throughout the year, then I can pick and choose what I want to keep and what I don't want to keep. So the third area in life is finances. I want to put goals as to how much I'm saving. If you have debt, like how much you want to take out in debt, things like that, your financial goals. So that way you have a clear sight of what you're doing and what your goal is for that year. And as you're kind of planning everything else, you kind of gear everything and piece them together accordingly. So you know that financially, let's say you want to save a ton of money this year, then you know that you're going to have to go out less. So the fun that you're doing, you might have to postpone it, but you at least have a clear goal as to what year and when and what you're going to do for this year. So the third, which is one of the most important things, is financials. Fourth item that I usually add to my brain dump is career. So this includes, let's say, if you want to look for a new career, if you want to improve on your current one by going to more classes, doing more events or something like that, that's what you're going to be putting on there. If you have goals as to how you want to progress in your career, you put that in there too. If you want to get a promotion, or if you just want to look and see, like do a side hustle, then you can start doing that as well. But make a list and put down what you want to do. One of the things that I actually put on there that I needed to do when I was trying to balance the work and parenting, and also my long commute. I have like an hour commute each way, so it's 2 hours a day, and I wanted to make sure that I was home at a decent hour. So I actually put that into my career goals on this list, because I wanted to make sure that I was always home at a certain time so I could have enough time for myself and for my son. So that was one of the things I put in there. On top of that, I also made use of my lunch hour. That's something that's huge because you have a whole hour there. So even if you use like half an hour to like de-stress or read a book or something for yourself, that is great, because you can set that and set it aside for yourself. So with work, it comes in so many areas and aspects, but you want to put that down so you can kind of manage it and play with every other aspect that you have in your life that you're putting on this brain dump. Fifth one is going to be one of the most important ones, but the ones that I think most people neglect, and that's health. And myself included, I often neglect this one because I feel like it's really hard to incorporate. But it's one of the most important ones because, like I said, when you have a health scare, you definitely want to make sure that you're at your best, if you can be, while you can be, right? Like, you don't want to be stuck in your hospital bed before you actually do something to fix your health. It's a lot harder going from that position to, let's say, if you're already in good condition and you're already alive, happy and well and functioning perfectly, to make these small changes, which will make a big impact in the long run. So health is a huge one. This is where I put like workout classes I want to try. Like, for instance, there was like a boxing class that had a free like first time class. And so I wanted to do that. So I put that on my list. There were a couple other things that I just kind of wanted to try out that I've heard that people have said were good and that I had interest in. So I wrote that down and I looked it up so I could see like what the classes were, how much it was, and things like that, and how I could manage it into my schedule. Because, whether it's close by or it's far away, it's still taking time to kind of get there and get ready and all that. So I kind of had to map things out, but I put that on the list so I had an option. So whenever I did want to work out and I had that motivation, I looked at the list and I knew exactly where I wanted to go and what type of activity I wanted to do. So the last one is health. And you can always add, obviously, more categories that are pertinent to you. But these kind of work for me, and they're not so specific that I get very caught up in it. But they're not so broad that I'm, like, lost in it. It's just a good guide for me. So I use these 5 to kind of help me guide through my brain dump. And sometimes I just use no categories whatsoever. I just brain dump first, and then I go into categories to help me add more to it. So just kind of go with what you feel, but the most important thing is to get everything in your head out on paper, and that way you can kind of sit there, look at it, and move it around. The second thing that I do is I look at that brain dump and I actually customize it by the category that it goes into. So there's 5 categories that I told you: the self, the family, the finance, the career, and the health. Those ones are the ones that I kind of lump them into the different categories of what I need to do. And I look at it and I assess it. So I kind of do my own version of this. So you are free to do yours. Again, this is just what works for me. But I take my brain dump and I look at it and I'm like, okay, what can I actually do today? What's in my head that I can actually do today? And then I'll put that on one list. And what can I do this week? and then I put that on this other list. So there are some things that are more important than others. So that's why those things go onto my today and this week list. And then on top of that, I go into different categories. So I'll go into, let's say, if I have a bunch of financial things I need to do, I keep those separate because I want to focus in on them. So let's say I want to pay a bill, if I want to submit something from my flexible spending account, if I need to update my budget with certain things, or if I want to create a budget for, I just recently bought a couple of mattresses for our household, and that was a lot of money. And so I created a new budget for it, so that way I knew exactly how much I was going to be spending for it. Something like that, I would put into that financial category. So I can see it, I know it, and I can know that when I'm in a mood to do my finances, because when I do my finances, I need to be, not tired. I need to be a little more alert. My brain needs to be functioning and not foggy. So that's why I make sure that when I am doing my finances, I need to be kind of more on my A game. So I keep that in a separate category. So when I do feel that way, I could just kind of be on a roll and look at everything at once. Another thing I need to make sure that I add in there that many people always forget about these little things is to add these separate categories for small things that come up once or are just, random amounts that just come up. So one of the things is actually going to be for my son's summer class or whatever class it is that he takes. Once I kind of get an idea of what that is, I kind of budget it into my budget. So I know that that's an expectation because that's something that I want to do and I know that. So I try to save money for it. So that's something that I do as well when I'm looking at this overall picture of my brain down. My next one is going to be with some help with my friend Google. So I use Google Calendar like nothing. I put my whole entire life on there. I used to be a paper calendar girl and I still love paper. Like as you see, I do a brain dump on paper. But I love Google Calendar because you can take it with you. It's easy. If I need to make appointments, I always have my phone with me, and so I can always make an appointment. Whereas if I had a paper calendar, I can't do that, and I'm not about to go and write it twice, which I was doing for some time because I love my paper calendar. But I needed to stray away from that. So once I started using Google Calendar full force, I just never looked back. And it's great because on the month view on my phone, and I use an Android, it actually shows me the entire month at a glance with the actual detail as to what is happening each hour or whatever you put in. And so it helps because I can look at a whole month at a glance, and that's what I love. And I hate on the iPhone, it just has those dots. I hate that. So that's why I love Google Calendar. It works for me, and this is the only reason why I switched, is because I can see that whole month at a glance. And I love it because you can send the invites out, you can do different colors, you can put more detail into it if you want to. Like I'll put groceries, I'll put like Trader Joe's, and then in that I actually put a list of what it is I need to get. Or if I let's say to plan for something like later on in the year, I'll actually put like some detail as to what it is that I want to do. So if I even put let's say someone's birthday, I'll even put like the year that they're born so I know how old they are. And so I kind of do a couple of things with Google Calendar to actually make it more efficient for me. And so this is a huge tip if you guys aren't doing it already. It is something where I have multiple calendars within my Google Calendar. So in your Google Calendar, you can actually go and create a new calendar. So you just add calendar. So I have different ones for different areas of my life. So I have one calendar for myself, and this is going to include all my main dinner, lunch, appointments, everything. And so that goes in there. I have another one that has one for my son. So the time that I share with his dad, scheduling, holidays, school stuff for school, I keep on that separate calendar. And that way I have it and it's in there and I can see them all together because you can see all the calendars on there together. But if I just wanted to look at my stuff, I can actually unclick his and I could just choose whichever calendar I want to look at. So that's the great thing about it, because I don't have to have his stuff mixed in with mine, but yet I have that information somewhere because I am managing essentially two calendars. So I have one for myself, one for my son, and then I have one for just dates. So I keep this for informational purposes. So these are things that will never change. It's kind of just things that I want to put in there, but I don't want to necessarily see it always. I just kind of refer to it every once in a while when I'm doing my planning. And so what I'll do is I'll put in people's birthdays and I will put in birthdays for the entire year of everybody's birthdays. And I set it in my calendar as something that reoccurs every single year. So I never have to put it in ever again. One time, done. And so that's something I put in there. When they do Dine LA around here, I live in Los Angeles. So when they do Dine LA, I put those dates in there because I want to refer to it. And if I'm having lunch with my friend during that time, and if it's appropriate, I'll say, hey, let's go try whatever restaurant that's serving Dine LA. Things like that. So I kind of try to put in all the dates that I feel like are important. And then I kind of use that as a guide when I'm planning. So that's informational. And then I also do another one where I put like projects. So let's say if I am, let's say for YouTube, right? I can actually create a calendar and I put YouTube and I put all the dates that I want to upload or I want to shoot videos or edit or whatever. I can do all those things and map it out. I haven't done it, but I could do that. And I plan on doing that at some point, but that is something that, you know, would be really useful. Or if you have a project-based job, that's something you could put on there. If it's something where you just have job commitments that you want to keep on the same calendar, do that. But you could literally use every calendar for every aspect of your life. That makes sense. I actually, for all you ladies out there, I actually have one for my period, so I could track it. And that way it's not on like my calendar where I mark it, you know, and people are like, what's that, you know? And so I have it on my calendar, and it's nice because I could just refer back to it and see it. And if I ever had to go to a doctor or something like that, I can refer to it and I see it right away versus, you know, having to refer back onto a paper calendar or look or forget to track it, things like that. I also started doing something new, especially because I got sick, is that I started doing one, and I meshed this one in with my period tracker. I just call it like a health tracker, and what I do is I put in when I have headaches, and I put in, you know, what might have caused it, what I did, some trigger points, and then I also put in, you know, if I'm not feeling well, if I'm feeling nauseous, or, you know, if my stomach was hurting or something, anything that's health related, I put it onto this calendar so I can see exactly when and what the trend is. And this is really helpful. Like when I went to the hospital, they were like, you know, when did this happen? What happened? And all that. And I had the exact dates. And it wasn't because of the calendar. It's just because I remembered it. But this would be really helpful just going forward, especially if it wasn't something so noticeable. You can actually remember, because honestly, if I have a headache, I'll forget about it once I stop having the headache. And I don't remember how often it was happening or how bad it was. I forget about it. And so this really helps to kind of be a good reminder and a good tracker of all these things. Now on to something that I use every single day. I actually use a weekly calendar, or I use a daily kind of list schedule maker. And so what I do is I have actually like something like this. So it's like a things to do, and you'll see here it has like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then the weekend. So stuff like that, and then you have like a little note section. So something like this I love. This is actually from Target, from the dollar spot, and so I picked up a bunch of these types. They have different formats and layouts, but you know, something like that kind of works for me because I'm able to put in, and I just kind of list here like all the things I need to do. I'll actually do like appointments in like red, and then I'll list out all the things that I need to do that day in like bullet points. And so that's kind of what I do. Here are notes that I just kind of put general things I want to get done through the week, and or things that I want to know and keep track of. But usually it's just stuff that I need to do through the week, but I don't have a specific day I want to assign it to. So essentially, these things will go to a specific day, but if it's something that's not set for a day, then I just kind of put it here. So what I mean by that is, for instance, like I schedule donation pickups because that's kind of my only way to get myself to, you know, get things done. And so that's kind of my trick for myself to schedule it. And so I have to kind of stick to it. And so let's say if I schedule something on Tuesday to get picked up, and I usually do that in the morning. And so I know on Monday evening, the weekend, I'm going to be packing and doing all that stuff. And then on Monday, I put a note here to say, leave donation boxes outside. And then here I'll put like donation pickup, something like that. So I know that I need to do it on this day. I wouldn't put it here because if by the time I look at it, it's like Wednesday, you know, it's already way past me. So that's why I kind of just use this for specific days. I know I need to get it done on that day, and then this is for like any time of the week. I don't care, just get it done. Or like a little notepad, and I literally write out my schedule. So I'll write it to something to the degree of like, 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. wake up, drink lemon water, meditate. 7 a.m. to 8 o'clock, I'm making eggs, preparing, clothes or something like that. And then 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, it's, my son's time, so just kind of taking care of him. 9 o'clock, drop off at school, 9 o'clock to, 4 o'clock, whatever. Just literally hour by hour. And it works so well for me because it maps it out, and I may never refer to it in the day, but it helps me just know, like, kind of have an idea of what I'm doing. And so whether I refer to it or not, I kind of already have a gist of what my day is going to be like. And that really helps me out. So I kind of do that, and I adjust it as I need to. Again, I don't set these things in stone because I know things change, but that's, what I do. I kind of try to make sure that it's flexible, and I know the things that I need to get done that day, and the other things are kind of just more flexible. Now, the fifth and last thing that I use all the time is Google Keep. So Google Keep is something that is another offer by Google, and it is kind of like OneNote or Evernote. It's like a notes app, so you could just open it up and do notes. But the thing is that it's just so easy to use, and it's pleasing on the eye, and the way it looks is just, it works for me. It's cleaner for me because I could see it's like a Post-it note version on a collage. So that way it's kind of easy for me to see things. And it's great. You can just do your list on there. And I use this mainly for things that I need to take that's portable. So let's say my grocery list, I'll put groceries on my to-do list, but then I'll go into my phone and do the Google Keep and say groceries, and I'll put list all the things I need to get. Something like that. If I want to track, let's say, my budget, what I do is I put on there and I put, hey, I have, $50 to spend on, groceries, or $100 on going out, things like that. And then I'll go from there and deduct and kind of keep track of my spending on there. Things like that. I just kind of use Google Keep for things that I needed to make a quick note of. So even when I was at the doctor's office, I was like, okay, what is my blood pressure? And I just kind of write it down, and I make a note of it. So that way I can just kind of go on there and check it. So that's kind of what I do, but I wanted to give you guys a bonus tip. And the bonus tip is to give yourself a break. So it's really hard to do. I know it's really hard sometimes because you just on the go, you feel like there's so much to do, and it gets overwhelming sometimes. And, if you're anything like me, I definitely do that all the time. Even when I'm trying to rest, I'm not really resting. I'm thinking about all the things I need to do or preparing for it. I usually I can't relax. As relaxed as I am trying to be, I just can't. And so it's really important, especially if you have a personality like mine, to really just sit down and give yourself that break. And it's okay. If you don't get anything done in the day, it's okay. You have tomorrow. There's a lot of things that are there to do. You just need to give yourself a break because you're not able to just do everything every single day. Things happen, and we don't function like this, but in this day and age, thanks to all the technology, it's great, but we are more capable to do a lot more things because, we see other people doing it. We think that we can do it, but everyone has their own lifestyle and pace. So give yourself that break, and pick back up whenever you can, and whenever you need to do some self-care, do that. And make sure that you always, as you're scheduling all this stuff, schedule in that self-care time. Give yourself that time to go to Target. Give yourself that time to go get a drink, go sit down and read a book. It doesn't take very long. You can use 5 minutes, or you can use an hour or 2 hours, but give yourself that time and schedule it in. Because as important as it is for you to schedule in time to do cleaning, do your laundry, do whatever, that is important, but the most important thing is you, because if you're not functioning, it doesn't matter if your laundry's done or if you have a clean house. If you're not okay and you're sick and not feeling well, or if you just don't feel good, it doesn't matter. So make sure that you're always taking care of yourself and add in that self-care whenever you need it. So I hope these tips help. I use these on a regular basis. This is kind of my way to survive through the years. And so I hope it helps you guys in some way. All right, I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.